Hello everyone, it's Gina from orchidandopal.com. I am back today with a finished jewelry update for this month, and I have a few pieces that I've made using contents from recent bead boxes that I've shared here in the recent weeks, as well as some new designs that I'd recently done tutorials for that I will share with you. And as usual, I like to not only unbox things, that does help to inspire me in a lot of my creations, and that's why I continue to share a lot of the bead boxes that I get. But more important than that, I like to actually make things with the contents that I can share with you all on a regular basis and talk a little bit about my process, maybe give you all some ideas or inspiration that may get you excited about taking out some of those things that may be sitting in your stash so you can put some of your materials to use and get creative. First, I just want to say that I am thinking about all of those of you who may be in Florida right now or in areas that were heavily impacted by Hurricane Ian. I know I've talked a few times here about how much I love Sanibel Island, and I'm dreading seeing the images that I'm sure are to come from what's happened there, and I'm hoping that all of you are safe and your family is safe and your property, because it looks like this has had a huge impact. On a different note though, let's get into the creations. The first item you see below is a necklace that I made from the recent Bargain Bead Box subscription. The theme of that one was Misty Rose, and we saw a lot of rose quartz and antique copper findings and chain. And one of the focals that we received is the go-go style rose quartz pendant. So I decided to make a creation based on that unique shape, and I incorporated a lot of things that came in that box with this. At the very bottom, I used some of the chain that came in the subscription. I cut segments of it to use to make sort of a tassel. These strips of chain are connected to the bottom of one of these connectors that also came in the box. And I used a segment of chain wrapped around the bottom of the pendant like you can see. So I just looped that around and then attached the different components. I also used a couple pieces of chain to begin the length of the necklace on either side, and continued in a manner of wire wrapping different components. I also made some beaded beads out of the rose quartz rondelles and the 3x2 millimeter crystal rondelles, only using seed beads from my stash. And then after making those beaded beads, I also incorporated the pieces on either side, the rondelle and a bead cap on either end, and wire wrap those into their own separate component. And I made 4 of those and used those in this necklace and separated those sections with some other rose quartz beads and some other findings and some of the antique copper spacer beads all the way up the necklace. And then I incorporated some more of those connectors at the back of the necklace. This is a pretty long one. And finished it up back here, of course, with a lobster clasp and an extender chain. I had one more loop to use, or connector, so I just added that as an embellishment off of the extender chain. And I'm really hoping to do a tutorial in the near future for the beaded beads. So if that's something that you'd like to learn how to do or want to know how I created that, I am going to try to get a tutorial up for those pretty soon. Overall, I love the seed bead texture that's added on the beaded beads. And like I said, pretty much everything else came directly from the box except for my seed beads clasp and the wire that I used to wrap the components. If you're curious about any of the boxes that I am talking about in today's video, if you're newer to my channel, I will try to link these boxes down below. I also have unboxing videos for them so you can see what came, as well as playlists to go along with all of them so you can see what has come in these boxes over time. But Bargain Bead Box is one that I will 9 times out of 10 come back and show you projects from, because it is one that I recommend so much for the overall value and consistency. And if I have any coupon codes for these, like I have one for this one, I will leave those down below also if you wanted to get started. Here's a look at the next jewelry set I created, and this one was done using materials from this month's Sam's Bead Box. I'm trying to get better about splitting up the projects between the different boxes that I share here and not focus too much on one particular box each and every single time. So I wanted to challenge myself to come back and share at least one thing from Sam's bead box, which had a woodsy forest theme. It was a lot of greens and, as you can see, golds and some of these deep reddish browns. And they also sent one of these gemstone pendants similar to the go-go style pendant we just took a look at. This one, though, more of a donut style, which has the hole placement right in the center of the stone. So I built the piece around that. I knew I wanted to come up with something that would dangle from the bottom of the stone pendant as well. And since we had these beautiful check glass sleeves included, I thought that'd be a great way to use those and show them off at the front of the piece. Here's a closer look at the pendant section. You can see that I did most of the seed bead work in herringbone stitch. I did the flat herringbone at the top and the bottom of the pendant and connected the leaves onto that with some additional seed beads. And then I did a herringbone rope segment on either side, first going up in this direction, then attaching two sides to the top of that to begin the actual necklace portion. And then I created some separate beaded herringbone stitch rope beads. So I just made these segments separately. I made a number of them to go on either side of the necklace, and I broke those up with some of the other check glass beads and things that were included in Sam's bead box this month. So inside of the herringbone rope is actually bead stringing wire. The first thing I did was complete the pendant portion, and I had the two small segments sticking out like this. And that's when I took a length of bead stringing wire and actually fed it down around through that U shape, going through the center just like I was stringing a bead. And then I proceeded to add the additional check glass beads and the copper spacers. Those are from the bargain bead box, and the herringbone segments onto that. I wanted to include a little bit more of that reddish color that matches the pendant, so I included the two check glass dragonfly beads that came in the box to add some of that additional color. And by the way, these seed beads actually came recently in a Beads of the Month club, the last one where I had received seed beads. They're really cool with I think it was the peridot green exterior, and they had the lining inside. So when they're held up to the light, isn't that cool? You have a really neat effect. And continued in the same pattern with those beads to the end of the necklace, finished the segments off with some wire guards and of course a clasp from my stash and some chain for an extender. And then added the sixth leaf that I had at the bottom of that as an embellishment. I had the two additional leaves and the two additional coordinating dragonfly reddish colored pressed glass beads still left over after making the necklace, which was part of my plan because I was hoping to incorporate those into a matching pair of earrings. So you see those up there on the right. Up next is the Luxor marquee bezel necklace designed by Anna Taylor of Potomac Beads. And I didn't share this particular box this month, but I usually share it every other or something along those lines. But I did receive this and I thought it'd be fun to make one of the patterns that came in that subscription. Since it's been a while since I've shown you any of those pieces after they're completed, that subscription, of course, comes with the materials that you need to make the project. This was the XL version of the box that had this project in it, which provides you with those and the actual paper pattern with diagrams and instructions. And they also have the video course, I believe, that goes along with this, but I was able to follow that pattern really easily without needing to refer to the video. I don't always get a chance to make these projects, but one thing I really do enjoy doing is occasionally making something by someone else because it allows me to step outside of my own brain, and there's always new things that can inspire us when we do that. For example, I always forget to make my own beaded clasp segment. It sounds simple and silly, but it's just something that I don't usually do a lot. And I like the fact that in the pattern they suggest just making a simple loop and a beaded bar portion to complete this necklace. So it allowed me to think about that and maybe how I can incorporate doing that a little bit more in some of my pieces. And then also this beaded bezel was done in a different way, a way that I had not really done before, and allowed me to think about bezel creation in yet another unique way. This was actually done pretty much in ladder stitch on both the front and the back, And then you sew half of it together like a pocket, you insert the stone, and then complete the other half. So just the concept of that alone gives me something else to think about, and another concept maybe to incorporate into a future project that I wouldn't have ordinarily gravitated towards doing. The next projects here aren't necessarily finished. This piece almost is finished. It's going to be probably a double strand necklace, or one really long strand that can be doubled up and just put over your head. But these are 5 of the bags of seed beads that came in this month's Beads to Live By seed bead subscription. That's a brand new seed bead subscription that I just shared here earlier this month. And every month you get a selection of 8 different colors, and these are 5 of the colors that we received in this wildflowers theme. And I've been wanting to do some really simple daisy chain tutorials for a while as part of the ongoing bead weaving basics series of videos that I share here periodically. And since the theme was wildflowers, I know we're going into fall, but it did inspire me to finally get some of those daisy chain pieces together and show you some of the different variations. I did recently share a YouTube short video, a less than 60-second video showing this first version of the daisy chain stitch being put together. So if you'd like to watch that, you can find that in the shorts section of my channel. But I know not everyone wants to learn that way, and that's not something I usually do. So I hope to come back in the near future to show an actual regular video, especially if you've never bead woven before, because that is such a great stitch to begin with. It's actually the one I began with many years ago when I first got into it, and I know some of you have told me the same thing, so maybe that will be your opportunity to give that a try if you've never done anything except stringing. There's also many other versions of the daisy chain style stitch that I want to share too, so I'm hoping to come back with even more tutorials showing you the different variations. Here is that original version that I'm making into that long double-stranded necklace, and then here are 3 other variations or other takes on the daisy chain that are really cool as well. And it's another option too to use as a chain for a pendant necklace if you want to. You can even use something like this as a beaded rope or chain instead of using a metallic chain or other stringing material, and coordinate it with the rest of your necklace or a pendant. You can also turn these into wrap bracelets and do multi-stranded pieces, or one long strand that you can wrap around multiple times. So it's a really versatile and really basic, simple stitch to know how to do or to learn, and give you another way to use your seed beads. I know most of us have them. And how fun are these colors that came in the Beads to Live By subscription? I just love how these 5 in particular go together. So it was perfect timing to dive a little bit more into that stitch. And then the next 4 designs are ones that I shared tutorials for this month already. So if you haven't checked those out, here's a closer look at some of these projects, and maybe a little reminder to go back and add this to your watch list or go back and make one of these. But the first one is called the Hidden Treasure Bracelet. It uses the Gem Duo beads and some of the 6mm sew-on crystal rhinestones in the settings. And ultimately, it was inspired by the last Beading School Academy subscription box in the theme called Thetis's Treasure, with all of those aquas, silvers, whites, and everything that came in that subscription. And I just made a few other color variations in colorways using beads that you can find at Beading School in their shop also. So I will try to link that tutorial down below and or in the right-hand corner of the video. That way you can check it out if you haven't already. And what's cool about this type of design is you make the components separately. So you could really turn this design into a necklace, or you could configure the beaded components in a different way. Maybe just make one of the round components and use that as a pendant or a pair of earrings. You get the idea, but don't feel like you have to limit yourself just to a bracelet like this. And here's another look at the Sunflower Fields pendants that I shared in a recent tutorial. These are also using items directly from Beading School, especially those 25mm round glass cabochons that are in the center. And in that video, we create a beaded bezel for those using different sizes of seed beads and 3mm bicones. And the outside is completed with these round drop duo beads, that 2-hole style that frame that cabochon. We create a really simple bail. You can add these to some chain or a full beaded necklace if you'd like to, or any other stringy material. The third design is the terrace lace bracelet. This is one that I shared way back when, actually a year ago, almost exactly, when the Moonlit Terrace box came out that I helped to curate with Beading School. It had a lot of blues, purple, silvers, and the like, and that bottom bracelet is the one that comes directly from the contents of that box. I've got tons of projects to go along with the Moonlit Terrace box, not just this one. And you might still be able to get your hands on this one. They had restocked it. There may be a few boxes available. I also made these other color variations using some of the beads and things that Beading School carries as well. Depending on how you use different colors and finishes, it can give a design a totally different look. So in this design, as you can see, we use the gem duos, the super duos, both of those 2-hole beads. And along with that, we're using some 11 and 15 seed beads and some 3mm fire polish. This is one where we used a needle on both sides of the thread and completed both sides simultaneously, so a little bit of a different technique there. And they have a really nice drape and feel, and if you have 2-hole beads, these are 2 of the more popular shapes, so chances are you might have them. And some of the other 2-hole beads could be similar in size. If you don't have one of these, you could try substituting, say, an iris duo for the gem duo. Somebody had brilliantly suggested that in the comments, so thank you to you for doing that. But things like that you can absolutely play around with. And then the latest tutorial is for the Lamplighter earrings. The inspiration for this one came from the Destination collection by Eureka Crystal Beads. They had recently launched that one in August. It has sold out, but you can get all these materials there, of course, and purchase them outside of the collection. And they have so many other different color options in these crystals and seed beads as well. Also, I want to mention that if you check out my website or the blog post specifically for each of these projects, I try to list all of the colors, the color names and links if I'm able to, for all of these materials in the different color options. So if you're curious about which colors I used in any of these variations for a lot of the projects that I share, just be sure to check out that corresponding blog post. There's a search bar on the right-hand side of the page, and you can just type in Lamplighter, for example, and scroll through to find the tutorial where I have the video embedded, and I also have the materials list and sometimes additional information about the project. So this is a design that uses the 10 by 14mm octagonal crystals. These are the Krakowski brand that you can find at Eureka Crystal Beads. And I've also used some Delica beads for the bezel, some 15 seed beads, and finally some 3mm rounds at the top and the bottom. There's a look at the back of the bezel. I always like to show most of the sides if possible. And then it's just attached up there to a small jump ring and the ear wire. And that is everything I have for this month's finished jewelry update. Huge thank you to you all for being here to join me to check out and see some of the things that I've been up to. I've been keeping my fingers busy as usual. And I also want to thank you all for all of your support, your viewership, your enthusiasm, which helps to keep me going, to keep creating and sharing more videos like this and more tutorials. I've got lots more that I'd like to share in the future, so I hope you'll subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Also, be sure to give the video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, so feel free to leave me a comment. Let me know if you have a favorite item here or anything else you'd like to say. And feel free to share the video with your other bead-loving friends. I'll be back again soon. In the meantime, I hope you all are staying safe and healthy, especially those impacted by this horrible storm or anything else you may have going on. Hopefully the beading and creativity provides you with a light distraction, especially during some of the tougher times. I look forward to seeing you all next time. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. And as always, happy beading.